You think wealth begins with money, with an opportunity, with the right connections or luck, but it doesn't. It begins with an awareness so brutal, so uncomfortable, that most people spend their entire lives avoiding it. The awareness that the world is not fair, it is engineered, and the engineers are not the ones who work hardest. They are the ones who learn to shape perception, to bend emotion, and to master timing. You've been taught that wealth grows from honesty, effort, and humility, but that lesson was designed to keep you obedient, not powerful. The rich don't work harder. They move differently. They see life as a chessboard, not a lottery. They don't pray for opportunity. They manufacture it, often from the desperation of those still waiting for permission. Machiavelli, centuries ago, saw this truth in the palaces of Florence. He studied princes, merchants, and kings, watching how the humble suffered while the cunning quietly built empires from nothing. He understood something few dare to admit. Success is never the child of fairness. It is the art of perception. The rich are not lucky. They are lucid. To rise from nothing, you must first destroy the illusions that make you weak. The illusion that morality guarantees reward. The illusion that patience will be noticed. The illusion that playing by the rules leads to victory. The world is not a moral competition. It's a psychological war disguised as a meritocracy. The earlier you accept that, the faster you stop feeding other people's dreams and start constructing your own. You were taught to respect rules, and that's exactly why you're stuck obeying those who write them. Rules are not there to protect fairness. They exist to protect ownership. The rich don't follow them. They design new ones. They hire those who write laws, influence those who interpret them, and fund those who enforce them. They turn structure into armor and visibility into distraction. They let others worship the system while they quietly own it. Machiavelli wrote that power is not about possession, but perception, and in the modern world, wealth is perception quantified. A brand is nothing but organized belief. A market is collective emotion disguised as data. The poor focus on what things are worth, the rich focus on what people believe they're worth, and that difference builds empires. If you want to rise from nothing, stop asking, "How do I earn?" and start asking, "How do I direct belief?" Because once you control belief, you control value. And once you control value, money becomes gravity. But this is where most people fail. They want wealth without discomfort, control without confrontation. They want to be liked while being envied. Machiavelli would tell you that this is impossible. To create asymmetrical success, you must first accept asymmetrical perception. You will be misunderstood, judged, resented, because wealth is not built in the sunlight of approval, but in the shadow of misinterpretation. The rich are not always loved because they move in silence. And silence, to the noisy, looks like arrogance. You've probably felt it, that quiet frustration, the sense that you work, you try, you give, but the system keeps you in the same orbit. You follow the advice, save the money, play the game, yet every year feels like the same invisible ceiling. That's not failure. That's design. The world rewards predictability, and obedience is the most profitable commodity of all. The illusion of freedom keeps you productive. The illusion of fairness keeps you calm. Machiavelli understood this centuries before capitalism had a name. He wrote that those who wish to rise must learn how not to be good. Not in the moral sense, but in the strategic one. You must stop assuming virtue is visible, that goodness will speak for itself. In power, visibility without leverage is vulnerability. To rise, you must learn the art of strategic invisibility, moving through systems without announcing your intent, mastering perception so that others underestimate your depth until it's too late to stop your ascent. Look at every self-made empire in history. None of them began with permission. They began with rebellion disguised as pragmatism. The true founders didn't wait for conditions to improve. They manipulated chaos until it favored them, Because chaos, to the strategic, is not danger, it's opportunity. Every crisis is a redistribution of focus, and focus is currency. The one who stays calm in chaos becomes the invisible hand that guides the fearful. The crowd sees fear, the strategist sees leverage. You want insane wealth. Then you must become comfortable in the uncomfortable, operating where others panic. Because while most people flee uncertainty, the few who remain become landlords of chaos. They buy assets, attention, and loyalty for fractions of their worth, while everyone else is still searching for safety. Machiavelli would tell you that fortune belongs to those who move first, not because they know more, but because they fear less. The secret is not knowledge, it's detachment. The rich do not worship results, they study reactions. Every failure is data, every rejection is insight, every betrayal is a map of human weakness. They convert emotion into understanding, because emotion, when observed, becomes strategy. But here's the brutal part. To think like this, you must give up your need to feel good all the time. Wealth is born from lucidity, not comfort. You must stop seeking validation and start seeking clarity. Because the more emotionally invested you are in approval, the easier you are to manipulate. The system thrives on your emotional dependence, the need to be seen, to be liked, to be rewarded. Detachment doesn't mean apathy. It means understanding that emotion is energy, and whoever controls it controls outcome. That's why Machiavelli warned rulers to be both lion and fox, strong enough to act, clever enough to hide intention. Wealth requires both, the courage to move and the subtlety to make it look effortless. The rich don't announce ambition, they camouflage it behind purpose, charity, innovation, or simplicity. They understand that appearances are weapons, and every great fortune is built behind the mask of virtue. Look closer and you'll see the pattern repeating everywhere. The influencer preaching humility sells ambition. The entrepreneur selling freedom monetizes dependence. The philanthropist curing guilt buys absolution. The words change, but the structure remains. Control emotion, then control perception, then control flow. That's the order of wealth. The poor build with hands, the rich build with minds. The poor measure value in possessions, the rich measure value in control. And that's why Machiavelli's wisdom remains timeless, because he never moralized power. He dissected it. He understood that to be good, you must first survive. To be fair, you must first be free, and freedom demands leverage. If you're starting from nothing, your first currency isn't money. It's information, not the kind you memorize, but the kind you interpret. Every conversation, every silence, every opportunity others ignore, that's raw data. The world hides its riches in plain sight, inside human patterns. If you learn to read people, not just hear them, you'll start to see the invisible strings that pull everything. You'll notice who's driven by fear, who's addicted to recognition, who trades autonomy for comfort. And when you can see that clearly, wealth becomes a natural consequence of clarity. Because while everyone else is chasing outcomes, you'll be designing conditions. There's a moment every self-made person experiences, a point of no return, when they realize the game is not about being right, it's about being useful. The rich adapt truth to function. The poor defend beliefs, even when those beliefs keep them broke. Machiavelli would tell you, the man who insists on being good in a world built on manipulation will end up poor, pure, and powerless. But don't confuse this with cynicism. It's realism. The rich don't hate morality. They just understand it's a currency, not a compass. They spend it wisely. They use their goodness as a brand, a shield, a weapon of soft power. They understand that virtue, when performed strategically, creates trust. And trust, once captured, becomes the most liquid asset in the world. Every product that sells, every politician that wins, every company that dominates, They all trade in trust, and yet trust is never earned fairly. It's engineered through consistency, story, and illusion. The greatest illusion of all is permanence, the belief that success, once achieved, is safe. That's the myth that keeps you small. Machiavelli would laugh at that myth. He'd remind you that fortune is never loyal. She loves the bold and abandons the complacent. To rise from nothing, you must remain fluid, always reinventing, always unpredictable, always 2 moves ahead, because the moment you become predictable, you stop being powerful. You've probably seen people who made money once and then lost it all. They thought wealth was static, something to protect. But real wealth is motion. It's adaptation. It's the ability to pivot faster than collapse. The reason Machiavelli's wisdom endures is because it describes human nature, and human nature doesn't evolve. Only its disguises do. You want insane wealth? Then learn how people break, not just financially, but emotionally. Study envy, fear, exhaustion, and pride. Because every market, every negotiation, every revolution runs on these fuels. If you can see when they peak, you'll know when to act. When others are too proud to adapt, you'll quietly rise. Insane wealth is not a number. It's an understanding so deep that you stop fearing cycles. You stop reacting. You become the constant others orbit around. You don't need luck anymore, because luck is just timing experienced by the unprepared. This is what Machiavelli meant by mastering fortune. He never said control her. He said anticipate her. He believed fortune was like a river, unstoppable, dangerous, but predictable in rhythm. The wise build levees before the flood, the poor pray after it begins. The rich build entire cities on its banks, and that's your task. Build levees of clarity. Learn to read cycles not as disasters, but as invitations. Every collapse hides a redistribution of attention. Every panic hides a transfer of control. And every tragedy hides an opening for those who kept their eyes open while everyone else looked down. You may start with nothing, but if you can master perception, you already have more than most. Because wealth doesn't begin with possession, it begins with perspective. When you can see what others refuse to see, money follows naturally, not as a goal, but as a side effect. Machiavelli would tell you, fortune favors the strategist, not the saint. And the strategist doesn't beg. He observes, he calculates, he waits, because timing, more than talent, determines destiny. They tell you to dream big, but the dream itself is the leash. The system teaches you ambition without direction, hope without structure, and work without ownership. It tells you to climb ladders that someone else built, to compete for promotions inside cages called corporations, to buy symbols of status designed by people who already cashed out. Every advertisement, every success story, every cultural myth whispers the same lie, that you'll rise through effort, when in reality, effort is the fuel that powers someone else's design. Machiavelli would look at this world and smile, because he saw it coming. He understood that most men are not destroyed by weakness, but by virtue. They believe too deeply in fairness, too passionately in loyalty, too blindly in honesty. And those beliefs make them predictable. Predictability is the foundation of control. If your reactions can be anticipated, your destiny can be managed. The rich don't manipulate money. They manipulate reaction. They control tempo. And in every negotiation, tempo is power. The poor rush. The rich wait. The poor seek answers. The rich create uncertainty, because uncertainty keeps others defensive, compliant, eager to please. To rise from nothing, you must reverse your emotional instinct. When others panic, you slow down. When others celebrate, you grow silent. Each of these reversals breaks the spell of social hypnosis. The crowd runs on emotion. The strategist runs on observation. Observation is the first stage of transformation. you begin to see how every human interaction is an exchange of dominance, often disguised as kindness. Compliments become tools, generosity becomes bait, advice becomes direction. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The world turns transparent, like a stage where actors forget their lines but keep smiling. And that's the moment you step behind the curtain. Insane wealth begins in that silence, the one after realization, when you finally stop chasing and start studying. Because the truth is, wealth isn't about accumulation, it's about orchestration. The wealthy don't own things for comfort. They own mechanisms that extract energy, attention, and compliance from others. Your time builds their infrastructure. Your desires fill their funnels. Your morality protects their advantage. To escape this, you must become dangerous, not in violence, but in awareness. The dangerous man is the one who can no longer be flattered, frightened, or rushed. Machiavelli said it clearly. He who builds on the people builds on mud, meaning never depend on the approval of the masses. Build on structure, not sentiment. Build on logic, not applause. This is why the truly rich often seem detached. They don't chase community. They construct ecosystems. They don't seek praise. They design dependence. Every corporation, every platform, every movement that captures your loyalty is a financial organism feeding on your predictability. They sell empowerment while quietly measuring your obedience. So how do you rise from nothing when the entire structure is engineered to keep you compliant? You reverse the lens. You stop asking what to get and start asking what's being taken. When you buy, who profits? When you post, who collects data? When you speak, who gains leverage? That's Machiavellian lucidity, seeing every transaction as a transfer of control. Once you see that, you begin to invert it. You start to profit from the same mechanisms that once profited from you. For example, attention. Most people give it freely, to trends, gossip, outrage. But attention is capital. Every second you waste reacting is a donation to someone else's algorithm. The rich buy your outrage in bulk. They understand that outrage drives engagement, engagement drives revenue, and revenue funds more manipulation. The Machiavellian mind breaks the loop. It monetizes calm. It creates content, systems, or silence that others chase. The same with fear. You were raised to avoid it. But fear is simply unclaimed power. Every great fortune begins with the sentence, "Everyone was too afraid to try." The strategist studies fear as if it were a map. He asks, what opportunity is hiding beneath this panic? When others freeze, he expands. Because expansion is not about courage, it's about timing. The third is identity. Society conditions you to define yourself through roles: employee, parent, citizen, believer. Each identity comes with expectations, and each expectation limits your power. The rich use identity as costume, wearing whatever role the moment requires, discarding it the instant it loses function. The poor defend theirs with emotion, but emotion doesn't create leverage, flexibility does. Machiavelli's princes changed masks like seasons. They could be cruel in the morning, merciful by night, devout at court, ruthless in private. To the naive, that looks like hypocrisy. To the strategist, it's adaptation, the highest form of intelligence. When you stop needing to be consistent, you start becoming effective. Consistency is overrated. Effectiveness is survival. This is where your true transformation begins, when you stop trying to seem good and start trying to be strategic. You learn that reputation isn't built on truth, it's built on repetition. The one who controls repetition controls memory. That's why billionaires buy media, not morality. Machiavelli would call it the infrastructure of belief. Whoever owns the story owns the state. Today, whoever owns attention owns the economy. But here's the paradox. The way to dominate attention is not to scream louder, it's to whisper better. In a noisy world, silence becomes magnetic. The modern prince doesn't post, he positions. He lets scarcity do the speaking. People chase what they can't fully read. That's the secret behind luxury brands, exclusive circles, secret clubs. They monetize distance. Visibility is cheap. Mystery is premium. If you want insane wealth, learn to weaponize absence. Withdraw when others overshare. Let curiosity accumulate interest. Mystery multiplies value faster than marketing ever could. The less you explain, the more people imagine. And imagination in commerce is the most scalable illusion ever built. Machiavelli would tell you that every successful empire hides its core. Apple hides innovation behind simplicity. Banks hide exploitation behind trust. Nations hide control behind freedom. The more elegant the disguise, the stronger the power. To rise, study not what is shown, but what is concealed. Every logo, every speech, every trend hides intention. Decode the intention, and you'll find the invisible architecture of influence. Yet understanding alone isn't enough. Power demands application. So here's how you turn awareness into ascendancy. First, build leverage before visibility. Start small, but build something others depend on. Knowledge, access, systems, timing. Dependency creates wealth faster than effort. People will pay endlessly for what they can't replace. Second, own the narrative around your worth. Never let others define your market value. Define it through scarcity. When you become the only one who can deliver a certain insight, product, or energy, price becomes irrelevant. Third, insulate your psychology. The market will test you with noise, envy, and moral guilt. Do not explain, defend, or justify. Silence is armor. The minute you start proving your virtue, you're already playing defense. Fourth, convert chaos into advantage. Every collapse redistributes power. Be present when others retreat. You don't need to be right, you need to be there. And fifth, build systems that print outcomes even while you rest. The ultimate Machiavellian move is not to work harder, but to design inevitability. That's how the rich stay rich. They automate manipulation. They build institutions that continue extracting long after they're gone. You can begin this from nothing, by observing, by learning how people think, by mastering emotion before resources. Because wealth doesn't magnify wisdom, it magnifies patterns. If you're reactive when poor, you'll be reckless when rich. That's why your transformation must begin internally, turning your mind into the first fortress. Machiavelli wrote that fortune is a woman who yields to the bold. But boldness isn't chaos, it's precision under pressure. It's the art of moving when others debate. You'll never be fully ready. You'll only be more prepared than the rest. Move then, not when you feel safe, but when others freeze. Every empire you admire was born from discomfort embraced at the perfect moment. Now imagine your future through this lens. Not a linear climb, but a spiral of control, retreat and return. Each move recalibrates the power dynamic around you. Each pause multiplies leverage. Each silence accumulates weight. That's how the once invisible become inevitable. Insane wealth, in truth, is not about greed. It's about gravity, the ability to pull opportunity, talent, and belief toward you without chase. To reach that level, you must design yourself into myth. Let others speak your name more than you do. Let rumors carry your legend farther than effort ever could. Machiavelli would call this governing through ghosts. Ruling through perception so strong that people obey you even when you're absent. That's the final evolution, when your influence survives your participation. When you can disappear for months and still move markets, still command loyalty, still shape reactions. That's when you've transcended money, you've become infrastructure. And that's what this channel exists for. not followers, but builders of invisible empires. This channel isn't for followers, it's for strategists. You've already begun your transformation. Don't stop now, subscribe, and stay 2 moves ahead of those still playing by old rules. Comment below what part of you still obeys the illusion and which part is ready to rule it. The next video will not teach you how to earn more, it will teach you how to become untouchable.